Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to study second chapter of fourth model, that is about firewalls. In computing, a firewall is a network security system that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic. Means the firewall is a component that is going to inspect the packets which are there for transmission, and firewall component that able to monitor and controls incoming and outgoing network packets or traffic based on some predetermined security rules. And these predetermined security rules or the rule sets can be made by an individual or by an organization. A firewall typically establishes a barrier between a trusted internal network and that of an untrusted network such as internet. So this is just a firewall in general. Now, that is why we can say a firewall acts as a security guard controlling access between an internal protected network and an external untrusted network based on a given security policy. Besides preventing intruders getting in, a firewall also helps prevent confidential inside data from getting it out. A firewall may be implemented in a hardware as a standalone firewall appliance or in a software running over a personal computer system. A single firewall may be adequate for all small businesses or homes or campus networks. However, in large enterprise, multiple firewalls are also deployed to achieve the defense in depth. To provide a more level security, even we can use multiple firewalls in an organization. Now, with this brief introduction, let us have more basics about the firewall in terms of the firewall functionality and the policies and access control list and the types of firewalls and the issues in the later words. Now, the main functions of a firewall are as follows: access control, second one address or port translation, and logging, and finally authentication and caching. A firewall, first one access control, where a firewall filters incoming as well as outgoing packets, and firewall is said to be configured with a rule set that is based on which it decides whether the packet are to be allowed or which are to be dropped. The access control, where it will tells about whether the packet is going to be accepted or dropped or discarded. And second one, address or port translation. Here we know already the concept called network address translation. This was initially devised to uh, overcome the shortage of IP addresses used by providing a set of private addresses that could be used uh, by the network administrators on their internal networks. But there are globally invalid this network address translation globally invalid because it is not having any meaning over the internet. Publicly accessible machines with an organization such as web servers may or may not have public internet addresses. Uh, it is possible to hide the addressing schema of these machines from the outside world through the use of network address translation. Through the network address translation, internal machines, though not visible on the internet, can establish a connection with an external machines over the internet. And this NAT or network address translation is a major functionality is often done by firewalls. Next one, logging. Here, a security architecture must ensure that each incoming or outgoing packet encounters at least one firewall. The firewall can log all anomalous packets or flows from an untrusted source. The firewall can able to detect the source of the packets and what kind of flows they are. Uh, these loggings are very useful for studying the attempts at intrusion together with the various viruses, worms, and DDoS kind of attacks. The next one is authentication and caching. Some types of firewalls perform authentication of external machines, attempting to establish a connection with an internal machine. A special type of firewall called web proxy or proxy server that authenticates internal users attempting to access an external service. Such a firewall is also used to cache frequently requested web pages. And the use of these uh, web cache pages can result in decreased response time to the client, and also the network bandwidth can be also saved. Okay. These are the four main functionalities of firewall. Let us see the policies and access control lists used in the concept called firewalls. High levels policies for access to various types of services are formulated within an organization or campus. So here uh, to say some examples, so the rules specified by an organization, some examples here I listed are: all received emails should be filtered for spam and viruses. Second example, all HTTP requests by an external clients for access to authorized pages of the organization's website should be permitted. So even you can make as should be permitted or may not be. It is a rule. The request by an external clients are allowed. And third example, DNS queries made by an external client should be allowed, provided they pertain to address of the organization's publicly accessible service such as web server or the external email server. However, queries related to the IP address of internal machines should not be entertained. The next one, the organization's employees should be allowed to remotely log in into the authorized internal machines, and the messages which can be communicated should be undergoing through encryption as well as authentication. And the next one, only two types of outgoing traffic are permitted. For this example saying that first maybe all email from within the organization to the outside world are permitted. Second, the requests originating from within the organization for external web pages are permitted. So except this, the other traffics are not allowed. Means the request for the web pages from other sources of the website should be denied. Like this, the rule sets can be made, or the high level policies can be formulated by an organization. Now, these high level policies are translated into a set of rules that comprise an access control list. So in the next slide, I am going to show an example of access control list. These high level policies can be later converted into the access control list parameters with their values. A rule specifies the action to be taken as a function of the following things: the packet's source IP address and port number. Next one, the packet's destination IP address and port number. Third point, transport protocol in use such as TCP or UDP. And next, the packet's direction, means the inbound or incoming traffic or outbound or outgoing traffic. To the access control list for high level policies uh, uh, can be defined and can be shown in the next slide. So here it is said that the policies in general be either the permissive or restrictive. A permissive policy is one uh, is defined as follows: permit all packets except those that are explicitly forbidden. Means there will be a more probability that you are going to allow the packets. Means the statement says permit all packets except those that are explicitly forbidden. And in case of a restrictive policy, the statement is defined as follows: drop all packets except those that are explicitly permitted. Means here there will be a least probability that you are going to accept the packets or allowing the packets for their transmission. Instead, there will be more probability to drop the packets except those that are explicitly permitted. So that is shown as an example in access control list. Here it is shown the values covering the inbound, that is capital I, or outbound, that is capital O, and then the transport layer protocol used, and listed are TCP, UDP and IPsec protocol to bring the security at the transport layer, and any other protocol than this, and source IP address, this source port number, similarly destination IP address and destination port number, and these are the well-known ports can be used for an SMTP on the other protocols of an application layer. Then action is either to permit or deny the packets, and the comments which will be giving a small description about these traffic flows. So now here this MS stands for a mail server, WS stands for web server, and NS says it is a DNS server, means name server, means here it will show the underlying transport layer protocol and the source IP address, port number, destination IP address, destination port, and finally the action taken. So this one showing the several examples where it's made a list. Moving on, we'll now discuss the types of firewalls. Firewall can be classified into three categories: packet filters, stateful inspection, packets, firewalls, and lastly application level firewalls. First, we'll discuss the first category, packet filters. Processing of the rule set as per the previous table involves checking for the matches in the header fields of either IP protocol or TCP or UDP. For example, it may be necessary to check whether the packet carries a certain specific source or destination IP address or port number. The early firewall type that is designed to perform these kind of tasks was referred to as packet filtering firewalls. It is often performed by the border router or access router that connects the organization's network to an internet, which is usually placed at the end of a network, which is used to connect the organization network to the public network such as internet. Consider an external mail server with its IP address, for example, as ABC, that wishes to deliver mail to an organization. For this purpose, it should first establish a TCP connection with the organization's mail server, that is MS. And for example, consider the arrival of a packet with the following attributes containing within it: source IP address as ABC and destination IP address as mail server, and TCP destination port used is 25, referring simple mail transfer protocol port number, and acknowledgement flag set, that is ACK flag set. Such a packet would be part of a normal flow provided a connection between ABC to a mail server has been established. But suppose such a connection has not yet been established, should the packet still be allowed in or not? That is the question. The simple packet filter will allow the packet to enter even if no prior connection between ABC and a mail server was established. It should be noted that such packets are often used to perform port scan. Without an existing connections, the mail server would send an RST reset in response to receipt of such a packet. Thus, such packets provide information to the sender regarding which ports are open on various hosts within the organization. A simple packet filter only inspects the headers of an incoming packet in its isolation. It does not view a packet as part of a connection or a flow. Hence, it will not be able to filter out such packets arriving from ABC. What is needed is a second type of firewall, that is stateful packet inspection firewall. Such a firewall uses a packet's TCP flags and sequence or acknowledgement numbers to determine whether it is part of an existing or authorized flow. If it it is participating in the establishment of an authorized connection, or if it is already part of an existing connection, then the packet is permitted, otherwise it is dropped. Uh, the stateful packet inspection firewall will realize that it has not encountered the first two packets in the three-way handshake, uh, and hence it will drop this packet. And third category is application level firewalls. A packet filtering firewall, even with the added functionality, that one with the stateful packet inspection firewall, uh, is having some limitations. It understands the network and transport layer headers, but it is indifferent to the application being run. What is needed is a firewall that can examine the application payload and scan the packets for worms, viruses, or spam of mails and inappropriate contents, etc. Such a device is called a deep inspection firewall. A special kind of application level firewall is built using a proxy agents such as proxy firewalls, that is acting as an intermediate between a client and server. The client establishes a TCP connection to the proxy, and the proxy establishes another TCP connection with its server, which is shown in this diagram. Proxy firewall where can have the directed TCP connection between the client and the server, and there we require two TCP connections between the client and the proxy, and between proxy and the server is shown in this diagram. The client establishes a TCP connection to the proxy, and proxy establishes a TCP connection with the server. To a client, the proxy appears as a server, and to the server, the proxy appears as a client. Since there is no direct connection between the client and server, worms and other malware will not be able to pass between the two, assuming that the proxy can detect and filter out the malwares. Hence, the presence of proxy enhances the security. There are proxy agents for many application layer protocols, including SMTP, HTTP, and FTP. In addition to filtering based on application layer data, proxies can perform client authentication and logging like functionalities. An HTTP proxy can also cache web pages, and caching has a major impact on performance. If the web page is cached in the web proxy server located in the client's organization, the response time could be greatly reduced compared to the where the page has to be fetched from the external web server. That is how it reduces the time. This is the third type of firewall. Now let us discuss practical issues that may arise. The security architecture of a medium-sized or large organization includes firewalls, proxy servers, or virtual private network terminators, and IPD devices, intrusion detection and prevention devices. Here we'll discuss uh, some issues related to the installation of the firewalls. So let us have in the form of placement of firewalls uh, as a first issue. We first note that the firewall self-segregate or isolate the network into multiple security zones. Each firewall in the organization enforces the rules that control the transfer of packets between the different security zones. At the very least, there are three zones, namely the internet, the region containing the publicly accessible servers, and the internal network. This diagram depicts a four-zone layout using three firewalls. Of the three firewalls, the first is really a router, that is a border router or access router with some packet filtering capability provided to it. This is the access router that interfaces with the internet, and it is connected to a stateful firewall that is connected to the stateful firewall, that is FW1 firewall 1. So here we are considering three firewalls: border router, FW1 and FW2. Now the FW1, which has three interfaces, the zone connected to the right interface of FW1 is referred to as screened subnet, though it is more commonly referred to as demilitarized zone, DMZ. So there are the zones called DMZ1 and DMZ2. So they refer as demilitarized zone. A demilitarized zone, in the sense, it is the area between two firewalls. The zone between firewalls FW1 and FW2 is a real DMZ that is labeled as DMZ2 in this diagram. Demilitarized zones are so called because they often host servers that are accessible to the internet and also to the internal network. Because they are accessible to the public, they are the most likely machines to be compromised in the entire network. For this reason, machines in the DMZ often run hardened versions of an operating system. Uh, Also, unnecessary services on these machines should be removed and newly available patches for these machines should be deployed thoroughly. In addition, the intrusion prevention and detection devices should be placed in the these zones, DMZ zones, to generate alerts in the event of an intrusion. Once a machine is in these zones is compromised, other machines in the demilitarized zones could get infected. The next step could well be compromise of internal machines. This is more likely if a compromised machine in the DMZ shares a trust relationship with an internal machine. Hence, the firewall that separates the DMZ from an internal network is a critical component of an security architecture. Now, this DMZ1 contains the publicly accessible servers. These include web servers, the external email server, and the DNS server. All incoming mail from an internet is received by the email server, which checks for virus signatures or the spam content. The DNS server resolves names of publicly accessible servers. However, care should be taken to ensure that it does not contain address records of any of the internal machines. Similarly, DMZ2, this zone contains the internal email server. This is a server that hosts the mailboxes of the company employees. It handles the sending and receiving of all the mails between the internal parties. It periodically establishes a connection to the external mail server that is in DMZ zone 1 to retrieve all incoming mail. Outgoing mail from the internet network to the internet can be handled in several ways. Uh, so this is what the knowledge about the placement of firewalls means, where the firewall need to be placed, that is in between the which are all the security zones with the consideration of the policies made by the organization. Now let us have another issue related to the firewalls implementation, the form of firewall configuration. In order to create a firewall rule set, we need to identify all the possible authorized connections that might be set up between pairs of a machine in two different zones adjacent to the firewalls. Now, here the following table shows, assume there are the organization using the two firewalls FW1 and FW2. These are the two tables mentioning the rule set for firewall 2, and then later we'll see the simplified rule set for firewall 1, means two firewalls. So this table showing the various attributes means for the packets, the prom IP address, the port number, to IP address, to port number, and the protocol used, and what is the action taken. The first rule set says here that no machine from any other security zone is permitted to establish a TCP connection to any internal machine. So here the first rule, it is rule number 1, which is saying that no machine from any other security zone is permitted to establish its TCP connection to the internal machine. Here the two IP address, it is the internal machine, its name, and the action taken is drop, and the remaining 2, 3 and 4, the 4 is also showing the rule set, we are going to drop that packet. But the 2 and 3 asserts that other than these connections from an internal stage to the internal mail server with a port number 25 and port number 80 through a proxy server, okay, with the protocols SMTP and HTTP, such packets are going to be accepted. No other connections are permitted to DMZ1 and DMZ2 or the internet. So it's only the packets with these two or the destination IP addresses through these port numbers are allowed to accept the packets. And similarly, there an organization is going to specify another rule set for the firewall one. So its rule set are entirely different. So likewise, the challenge or a issue for an organization, which rule sets needs to be followed by which are all the firewalls, what it is dealing with. Thank you.